a member of the reactivated 26th Regiment North Carolina troops, which Zebulon Vance was the first colonel of during the American Civil War before he became governor of North Carolina, which is the reason why I'm here to remember him and to show my respect for probably one of the greatest politicians this state's ever produced.
I'm here for the rededication of the Vance Monument. Asheville 104 is my United Daughters of the Confederacy chapter, and they formed the same year the Vance Monument was built.
We're here to sing for the Vance Monument rededication. We're North Buncombe Chamber Choir.
She's got the loudest mouth.
It's true.
What am I talking about?
Why are you here?
We're singing.
No, you gotta say it into the camera.
We're singing for the Vance Monument rededication.
All right. And what's your staff?
That's the staff of the senior deacon.
So you're a Mason?
I am.
And Vance was a Mason, is that right?
The same lodge, I'm a Mason.
Where'd Mama go?
We're here as contributors to the Vance Monument. We are his namesake here locally. We're 30,000 members plus in our organization, but we are the Asheville chapter here. I'm born and raised right here in Asheville, North Carolina. Proud to be.
Welcome to the rededication ceremony for the Zebulon Vance Monument. My name is Randall Garrison, and it is my honor to serve as the Master of Ceremonies for today. I'm also a member of the 26th North Carolina. As you can see by the identification we're kind of all wearing. 3 years ago, the 26th North Carolina entered into a partnership with the city of Asheville for the purpose of raising the necessary funds to conserve the Zebulon Vance Monument. Now we find ourselves at the completion of that worthy project.
December 22nd, 1897, the Masons of North Carolina gathered to lay the cornerstone of this monument to our departed brother, Zebulon Vance. On that day, Most Worshipful Walter E. Moore, Grandmaster of Masons in North Carolina, presided over an emergent communication of the Grand Lodge and laying of this cornerstone. In similar fashion, I opened the Grand Lodge of North Carolina earlier today at the Masonic Temple just 3 blocks from here. If you will notice, the officers are wearing collars and jewels around their necks. The jewel that I'm wearing dates back to 1873. So this is the same jewel that Grandmaster Moore was wearing 118 years ago today, or not today, but 118 years ago when he laid the cornerstone. Due to its historical significance, I only wear this jewel for special occasions such as this. The ceremony that we are about to perform is one of our public Masonic rituals. Each word or phrase has meaning, and it is meant to convey the significance of today's event. Right Worshipful Deputy Grand Master, what is the proper jewel of your office?
The square.
What are its moral and Masonic uses?
To square our actions by the square of virtue and to prove our work.
Apply the implement of your office to that portion of the monument that needs to be proved and make report.
Done.
Most Worshipful Grand Master, I find the monument to be square. The craftsmen have performed their work.
Very well. Right Worshipful Brother Senior Grand Warden, what is the proper jewel of your office?
The level.
What are its moral and Masonic uses?
Morally, it reminds us of equality, and its use is to lay horizontals.
Apply the implement of your office to the monument and make report.
Most Worshipful Grand Master, I find the monument to be level. The craftsmen have performed their duty.
Very well. Right Worshipful Brother Junior Grand Warden, what is the proper jewel of your office?
The plum.
What are its moral and Masonic uses?
Morally, it teaches rectitude. We use it to try perpendiculars.
Apply the implement of your office to the monument and make report.
Most worshipful Grandmaster, the monument is plumb. The craftsman could perform their work.
Very well. This monument has been tested by the proper implements of masonry. I find the craftsmen have skillfully and faithfully performed their duty. I therefore declare the monument to be well formed, true and trusty, and correctly placed according to the rules of our ancient craft. In the name of the great Jehovah, I do solemnly dedicate this monument to Freemasonry, to virtue, and to universal benevolence. Together, brethren, public grand honors. May the all-bounteous author of the universe bless the inhabitants of this place with an abundance of the necessities, conveniences, and comforts of life. May his spirit inspire them to unite in worthy endeavors and long preserve this structure from decay. Worshipful Brother Grand Marshal, I now declare that the monument has been found square, level, plumb, true, and trusty, and dedicated according to our ancient customs. You will make the proclamation.
By order of the most worshipful Grandmaster of Masons of North Carolina, I proclaim that the monument has been found square, level, plumb, true, and trusty, and dedicated according to our ancient customs.
The North Buncombe High School Chamber Choir, led by Mrs. Jeannie Graham, to perform the song, America.
My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrims tried, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. Long may our land be bright, with freedom's holy light. Protect us by thy might, great God our King.
I am honored to introduce Councilman Jan Davis of the Asheville City Council.
Zeb Vance was born 1830 at Reams Creek. We have a monument out there to his house. His family owned as many as 18 slaves. He's an interesting man. He became the district attorney when he was 22 years old. 22 years old. That's not too far off from some of you guys over there. He was elected to what was the House of Commons, now the General Assembly, at age 24. He went to Congress at age 28. I mean, talk about a fast mover. Was governor at 32. And when President Lincoln said we need to have troops go to South Carolina, Zeb Vance was in these mountains talking to people about the need to preserve the Union. He said we need to go slow on this. And only when South Carolina was going to have troops come to it did he say we're going to stand with our brothers. He advocated religious tolerance, particularly for the Jewish faith. He was way out in front on that. During the time of the Confederate War, Zeb Vance, his governor, said North Carolina is going to be the only state in the Confederacy that still observes habeas corpus, which means people have a right to know what they're charged with. They have a right to know how to get out of jail. We're the only state that did that because of Zeb Vance. And that's a great thing. He had a lot of guts to do that, speaking out against the Confederacy. One thing we can't do, folks, and let's just hit this head on. We can't do this monument to support the policies on race. They were wrong. Everybody here knows that. Nobody here is going to debate that. But what we can do is we can talk about what Zeb Vance meant to our state. We can't disagree. We can't pluck things out of history and say, I don't like his views on race because he felt black people were inferior. You can't pluck that out and not look at the whole picture. And that's how we study history, the whole thing, not a piece of it. But that's the beauty of history, folks. As long as we take time to study it, as long as we hear it and we're not ashamed, there's good and bad in all history. Zeb Vance was a great man. He deserves this. This is a fitting monument. I think we are fortunate, very fortunate to have someone like Zeb Vance in our history. And I would urge folks that don't want to honor people of the past to look at the whole picture. And I would like people that say you shouldn't say anything bad about the past to look at the whole picture. Because as a community, that's the only way we're going to get it right. If we don't, we're going to repeat the mistakes of the past if we try to sweep it under the rug. Human beings were sold like animals right here. That was wrong. Nobody thinks that's right. But it's not a slap at history to talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's be honest about it. And let's put it out there and let people decide how we're going to view things. I, for one, am very proud of my heritage as a Southerner. I grew up in North Carolina. My family goes way back.
The memorial wreaths. Presenting on behalf of Chapter 104 of the United Daughters of the Confederacy is Chapter President Mrs. Catherine Herman. Presenting the wreath on behalf of the 26th North Carolina Regiment is Society President Mr. Chris Roberts. Accompanying Mr. Roberts is his daughter Shaylin Roberts, representing Weaverville Girl Scout Troop 30026, and his son Elijah Roberts, representing Weaverville Cub Scout Pack 15.
Carolina, Carolina, heaven's blessings attend her. While we live, we will cherish, protect, and defend her. Though the scorner may sneer at, and with wings defame her, still our hearts swell with gladness whenever we name her. Hurrah, hurrah, the old North stay forever. Hurrah, hurrah, the good old North stays.
He entered the political realm, serving as Buncombe County Solicitor and in the state legislature, but he seemed to really want more. In 1858, he got his chance, when against everyone's expectations, he won the election for Congress, and at age 28 found himself bound for the city of Washington. Now, if you'd like to know what old Zeb thought about the city of Washington, at one point when asked that very question, he simply responded, "At times, I feel like a lone grain of wheat in a bushel full of rat turds." Rarely has Washington ever been described so accurately. But life was about to change radically as the rumblings of war overtook the country. Zeb was a member of Congress when South Carolina seceded from the Union. And initially, as mentioned before, he opposed secession for North Carolina and spoke adamantly calling for restraint and caution. But with the firing on Fort Sumter and President Lincoln's call for troops from the South, Zeb knew that he must stand with North Carolina, saying, "If war is to come, I wish to be with my own people." By the end of April of 1861, he would leave Asheville with his company of volunteers known as the Rough and Ready Guards. Within a few months, he was elected colonel of the 26th North Carolina Regiment, whom he would command during the rest of his time in the Army, through the battles of New Bern, North Carolina, and Malvern, Virginia. It was at this time that the people of North Carolina would call him for more than life in the Army. While he was still commanding his regiment in the field, he was elected governor in the year 1862. Now, this was done without a single campaign appearance or a single political speech. If there are politicians in the office, I'd like to say that's the kind of campaign I can get behind. By 1865, the fall of Fort Fisher and the defeat of the Battle of Bentonville, the end of the war would soon come to the Old North State. Zeb was arrested by Union troops on his 35th birthday and taken to Old Capitol Prison in Washington, not knowing what his fate would be. His imprisonment was short-lived, however, as he was released within a few months, in large part due to the fact that he had done his best to aid the suffering of the Union prisoners in the Salisbury prison. Once free from house arrest, Zeb was moved his family to Charlotte and tried to go back into the practice of law. One of his more famous cases was the murder trial of Thomas Dooley, for whom the ballad Tom Dooley was written. as you probably are aware, he did not win that particular case. In 1876, once again returned to Raleigh for his third term as governor of North Carolina. There was much work to do as North Carolina was just emerging from the period of Reconstruction. In 1878, he was dealt a heartbreaking blow when his beloved Hattie passed away. Plunging himself back into his political career, he once again fated to return to Washington, but this time in the U.S. Senate. It was said that Zeb held great respect in the Senate, and the Senate gallery would be packed whenever it was known he would be speaking. No story about Zebulon Vance would be complete without telling one of his more famous altercations that occurred on the floor of the Senate. It seems that Zeb's brother Robert, who was in the House of Representatives, had proposed a bill to use federal money to dredge portions of the French Broad River to improve water traffic with South Carolina. A particular senator from Rhode Island rose, saying that this Senate should not trouble itself with some little river in North Carolina that he could spit halfway across. Hearing this, Zeb rose, saying, "The gentleman who makes this remark about the mighty French Broad River comes from the puny state of Rhode Island. Well, I could stand at the border of Rhode Island and piss halfway across the state." The chamber erupted in laughter, and Zeb was cautioned that the gentleman of North Carolina is out of order, to which he replied, "Yes, sir, and if I was not out of order, I could piss all the way across the whole darn state." Shortly after his death, a movement began to make some fitting memorial to old Zeb. After many suggestions were floated around, the idea of a monument was settled upon. The architect Richard Sharp Smith, who had come to Asheville to oversee the construction of the Biltmore estate, offered his services to design the memorial. Mr. Smith, who like Zeb was a Freemason, would offer the best of his ability to this man of North Carolina. He would come to design a 75-foot tall granite obelisk with the name Vance emblazoned upon each face. After design was approved, it was determined that it would cost a whopping $3,000 to build. There was a variety of booths set up all over the city to take donations for the project. Ultimately, Mr. George Pack, from whom Pack Square is named, would donate two of the $3,000 himself. And in December of 1897, a group of supporters and Freemasons gathered in this very spot to dedicate the cornerstone and place a time capsule within the monument's base. Those same items are now here on display and once again see the light after 118 years. Much of what was part of that original ceremony you have seen today. The monument will be completed 3 months later in March of 1898 with its final capstone being placed. And here it has stood all these years as a towering reminder of a towering figure in the history of North Carolina. Thank you.
The time capsule. Most everything in there was paper.
So this is what today's ceremony is based on. It's the program they did in 1897. So it's got the proceedings and even the songs. And so this was the Bible that was in there, and it's extremely fragile. The contents did not, the leather did not hold up, nor did the book cloth on the binding. But it is legible, and pretty much the pages themselves are in great condition. And then the new time capsule will have these coins put back in it. So a little bit of the old will go back into the new.
And so what's going in the new?
Well, that is what the city is launching. There's a flyer here at the end. We want the community to have input, and then we also have a citizen roll call. Based off of this document here, we were sort of inspired that we could have the citizenry of Asheville and Buncombe. So this was a list of all the city officers, including the police and fire. So we wanted everybody to have a chance to sign the roll call, and so all of these will go into the new time capsule. So it'll be sort of a way to everybody to be part of history. The newspapers are extremely brittle, so we couldn't bring the newspapers out today, but we did make scans and facsimiles, and all of the scans will be available and online, and so people will be able to research, and the originals will be at the archives here at the Western Regional Archives, so we're excited about it. So.
And what's the website of the archives?
The archives were part of the state archives, so if you just look for North Carolina Department of Cultural Resources or look up North Carolina State Archives, you'll find us. That's the actual time capsule.
The copper box.
Yeah, so there are photos there of what it was underneath and then what it looked like when we opened it, and then we had to pull the contents out. But everything was wet, so then we had to take apart each page and dry them and stabilize. So.
exerting our efforts in those areas
By the time I got home,
those values upon which future generations can build with confidence.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This concludes the ceremony.
was 3.2 miles. By the time we got back to the Civic Center, we were about 4.5.
Members of the 26th North Carolina, please come up towards the monument.